Alright, video response to this schlock of God guy. He's always looking kind of angry. But anyway, 17 minutes on antinatalism again, and why don't you kill yourselves? I mean, a stupid kind of title. But anyway, let's play along and see if we can communicate with these human beings who really just don't seem to get it and think it's all crazy.
Antinatalists, why don't you kill yourselves? Right, so that's a wee reference to a video by Mike Campacharo from a few years ago when he, it's a video called Atheists, Why Don't You Kill Yourselves?
Yeah, well, if we're going to do that, then you probably should just put the little regarding in here, and that would have made it a little better. Yeah, but go ahead. Let's,
I run the risk of putting myself in the theist camp or the against reason camp, but I don't think I actually am. Because in that video, Mike made a similar argument that antinatalists often use, and that was well, there's no God, no objective meaning, there's no real point to your life, it's not going anywhere, it's not achieving anything, you're going to die anyway, and it's going to be nothing.
Yeah, that's right. The real problem is that how did it happen? How did that pointlessness get initiated? And that's the subject of antinatalism. Antinatalism is not about the your life. It's about the word life in general, and it's about why or how it gets initiated, how it gets made. It's not about what you do with one once you have it. I mean, once you're stuck in it, you play the game. All right, you're built to play the game. You play the game. The point is would you initiate a move in the game? Would you sign up? On the sign-up sheet, would you sign up to play this kind of game, the Russian roulette game, let's see, we have the dog fight game, the cockfight game, the bullfight game, the blah blah blah, the human race game. Should people just be able to sign other people up for the game? That's essentially the question. Should somebody, without much of a mission statement beyond me and the bitch wanted to, be allowed to just essentially sign somebody up to play a game that's really, 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 really sloppy? Should the human bird, all right, could you answer this question? Should the human bird be allowed to lay eggs without building nest? Should they just be able to just fart them out on a branch and say, tough shit, kiddo, you're on your own? I don't have to take responsibility for the shit of my culture. I don't have to take responsibility for the shit of the environment. I don't have to take responsibility for the shit of the world. I'll just sit there and pretend it's not my fault. And pretend that it doesn't matter if it's not good enough. Because it's natural.
Like you never lived, in a way. So, why, because life is full of problems and such, why not take the short route? Why not kill yourself?
Well, yeah, it's a stupid question because it has nothing to do with the subject in the first place. And the second place is it has nothing to do with what you might be able to accomplish being here in terms of fixing the problem. So there's no point in just lamenting, saying life sucks, and killing yourself. If you're not going to do something to prevent this suck or fix this suck, then you've just wasted your time being here.
And, it's a bad argument, of course, because it presupposes that objective meaning or meaning handed to us is required to do anything, really, or...
Well, I don't know if that's what it presupposes, but I mean, that is sort of it's really not brain surgery intelligent to say that there really does need to be a mission statement. There really does need to be something to accomplish by playing the game if you're going to be at least a little bit rational and concede that this game has elements to it that are brutally harsh. decidedly red number, a negative sign. Now, you want to pretend it all doesn't matter, that somehow the negatives don't add up to anything, there's no significance, the horror is not horror. Fine, I can't do much with that, though. It's not rational, in my opinion, to discount the reality of conscious suffering. It's just not rational.
True, because objective meaning is a logical contradiction, objective purpose.
Well, again, I'm not going to argue. You're saying that there's no truth regarding the significance of the conscious experience, that it's not a reality. It's just something that there'll never be a truth, there'll never be a reality to the substance of a consciousness feeling. And I'm just saying, I've had no evidence to defend that position whatsoever. And I would argue that the evidence is just obvious in your own existence and in your own capacity to measure the fact that it's okay if this thing falls off this table, but it's not okay if this roof falls on this conscious entity. Now, if this conscious entity ceases to be conscious and the roof falls, then it doesn't matter. And I can clearly make that distinction, that there's a huge difference between the roof falling on my dead corpse and the roof falling on my sentient being. And if you can't accept there's a huge difference between those two events, then I'm just going to say you're too stupid for communication. It's a premise of existence. If you're not going to concede the value of the conscious being's experience, then there's really nothing to talk about with you. I might as well talk to a fucking brick, because there's more, because it might, this logic is so basic that the brick might be able to understand it.
And, so, anyway, that is straight into antinatalism, right? So, I think that the same logic, the same underlying logic used to argue for the antinatalist conclusion, you can use the same basic underlying principle. You will arrive at the conclusion that it's unethical to continue your life.
Well, again, it's a stupid argument because it doesn't take into account that your life has impact beyond your own welfare. You affect the welfare of other beings. How many times do I have to do the same analogies? But I'll do them because it's just so glaring. Here's a scenario. Dr. Frankenstein creates humans. 9 out of 10 of them come out okay. They go off, hop, 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 do their little happy life. 1 out of 10 is Frankenstein's monster. And he rolls down the hill. They throw him out the back door. And he rolls down the hill into the mud and the gutter. And there he finds, there's a bunch of other Frankensteins. They're all sitting there in the gutter. Now, what are they to do logically? Would it be sensible for them just to say, okay, let's see if we can just drown ourselves in the mud? Okay, because life is miserable, it's stupid, it doesn't make any sense to me, my sensibilities don't match this world at all, I'm not made to live here at all, I don't fit in here at all, so what do? I'll just stick my head in the mud and drown. Now, that isn't going to stop new Frankensteins from rolling down the hill, is it? So the Frankensteins, if they have any kind of intelligence at all, are going to realize, well, you know what, this whole Frankenstein-y thing, me, you, him, we're all here because we come out of that thing up there and we roll down this hill. So maybe we should go up there and stop that thing from making Frankensteins. Now, is that really so fucking hard for you to understand? When people were dying in the Holocaust in Germany and in the concentration camps all over Europe, and dying in the battlefields and all this other stuff, and then the Americans got provoked into the war and they went over there and helped out. Were they doing it, shouldn't the Americans just said, fuck you, it doesn't matter, your suffering doesn't matter? Is that what they were supposed to say? Was that supposed to be the sensible and logical thing to say? Is that, no, we won't help out in this crisis, we'll just let the Hitler get bigger and bigger and bigger and just take over the whole fucking world? Or would the sensible thing to do say, well, you put a cork in that, you stop that? This isn't that hard to figure out. You just give this a minute of fairness and you can figure out that killing yourself doesn't fix a problem. I mean, unless your problem is just you. My problem isn't me. My problem was my mother's vagina. Alright? So get that one right, asshole. I didn't build me. I didn't make me. It wasn't my mistake. It wasn't my boo-boo. It wasn't my error. It was somebody else's error. Shithead.
That there's little or no justification for you to continue your life.
Yeah, well, like I said, I wish you would deal with the fact that there's been made counter-arguments to that ludicrous point. You don't do anything by just jumping off the ship. You don't fix the ship, you don't change the course of the ship, you don't change the shipbuilder, you don't do anything productive except spare yourself a little tiny bit of misery, when there's a whole huge giant misery creator that you could do something about if you're still here. And there's a side argument too. Again, this isn't about what you do when you're an addicted organism thrust into a bad game. You play the game. You're built to play. You have this suit of armor on. You have the uniform. You have the javelin. You're just going to be a javeliner. You know, you're going to race down the track, and that's what you do because you're built to do it. All right? But the point is should the game be played? You really should be able to understand this.
I had an exchange with Darwin's hamster. You might know him. He's a nice guy, and he's not penniless. And he put forward the proposition: no amount of pleasure, joy, whatever, something along those lines. No amount of pleasure, joy, justifies the suffering of another. Right?
And to be clear, the imposed suffering, the uncontractually accepted suffering, the imposition of the suffering. The equation becomes a little different if you start measuring people who are enthusiastically signing up for the demolition derby. You know, then the damage is your own damage. You signed up for it. You take your damage.
This was to do because bringing children into the world is an unnecessary harm, right? So that harm, it cannot justify your joy at having a child. And I asked him, well, how do you reconcile the statement, no amount of pleasure can justify the suffering of another? How do you reconcile that with your choice to continue living? And he finally responded very well, very honestly. He finally said, well, I can't. He thought about it and he answered well. He said, I can't. I can't justify it. I can't justify.
All right. So you had one conversation in one circumstance where somebody said, yeah, I really can't give you an explanation. Well, I can give you an explanation. All right. Again, there's two factors. First, there's your potential to change something and prevent something from happening again. And you can't do that if you're dead. And the second factor is that you've been built to do it. Okay? Being alive obligates you in a sense. It's part of the nature of the structure of the being to survive. The body wants to survive. It's built to survive. You're caught up in the addiction. And dying is, by all standards, currently, at least as nasty as going to the dentist or something. It's something you kind of want to put off if you can. It's something you just don't want to deal with if you can avoid it, because it doesn't sound like any fun. It doesn't sound like a good thing to do with your afternoon. And so there's an automatic, built-in, structural apprehension. Go stand on the top of the edge of a tall building. Go right out to the edge and just think about what it'd be like if you've got to say this is your last minute on Earth, and how intimidating it is to accept that prospect. Come on, this doesn't take just a little bit of thought, and you could figure this out for yourself.
Am I just anything? So. Because it was like bringing a child into the world, the choice to continue living, was also an unnecessary harm. Whether you think it's more of a harm or less of a harm doesn't really matter.
Well, this is really offensive. I mean, geez. You know, you're sitting there, you create a circumstance where getting out isn't free, and it certainly isn't for profit. I mean, you know, you don't make it pay well. I mean, if you would you pay me? You know, could I get a bonus for killing myself? Well, then, you know, something to make it even more, and then make it, you know, as free as possible in terms of the technology I can use to do it. So this is, you know, it's just a slimy. You put people in this slimy circumstance where it is not intuitive thinking, and it certainly is anti-our programming too, which is another part of this. I mean, if you raise children on a certain diet, and then you say, you know, when they're 25 years old, you say, oh no, we're going to change the rules now. Okay, so everything that was is now completely reversed, and you're not going to be able to eat any of the stuff you were conditioned now to like, and we're going to try to shove this stuff you don't like down your throat. And that's sort of what you're doing here. So you sit there and raise them all in this environment where they're psychologically bludgeoned with this idea that living is somehow important, and it's somehow an accomplishment, and the worst thing in the world that can happen to you is not suffering but dying. And then you expect their psychology to find dying to be, oh yeah, that's easy to do. Again, I didn't make the mess, okay, and I'm for cleaning up the mess, but I'm certainly more for never initiating the mess. You're just not getting it. The title of the guy who wrote the most famous book on this subject is Better Never to Have Been. You don't understand how come somebody can still be, but they can say, I'd rather not have been. You just can't understand that? You're dumb, man.
He can just, but what he said was, yeah, but that's not antinatalism, right? And of course, antinatalism would still be true either way, no matter what I'm saying. So, but I call this quarantine, and others have done it too. When faced with this suicide question, they've accused it. They often say, "Well, you're just strawmanning," and stuff like that. Or they say, "Well, that's not what it's about. It's not about that." And quarantine is
I don't even know where you're going with this, but yeah, it's not about that. That's right. It's about the decision to initiate for another being the choice. You're a perception. You have a perception that life accomplishes something, and you're basically going to tell somebody else, well, I'm going to invest you in that presumption. You can't see how obvious that is. That's the subject of antinatalism, is the delusion in somebody's head, life makes sense, life is accomplishing something, I will make more of it. All right, and they basically have to make more out of it, of things that may not share that belief that it is a good game to play. Again, if I sign you up for ballet lessons and then, I don't know, a vaginal scraping, okay, maybe that's not going to make sense to you. Maybe you're going to say, what the hell are you thinking? What are you doing to me? This doesn't make any sense. It doesn't fit with what I consider to be a rational perception of reality. How could you possibly invest me in something that ludicrous? You can't see how that's as simple as this issue is whether you have a right to have a notion, just a notion in your fucking head, and then invest somebody else in it? Jesus.
Kind of when you start with an underlying principle, like an ethical principle, that you don't cause unnecessary harm, and you arrive at a conclusion.
Well, it's not just about causing it, it's about preventing it too. So again, you're in a sense causing harm if you declaw yourself before you finished your battle, or if you disarm yourself before the war is over, or some kind of explanation like that. I mean, you certainly understand that you can prevent more harm by causing harm in the short run, right? That there can be a short-term harm for a long-term gain. So that's part of this equation. But again, underlying it all, it doesn't really matter. If somebody is psychologically addicted to life and they want to live, it doesn't mean they can't be anti-natalists. It just means that they are addicted. They're saying, I got the heroin addict, I'm going to do heroin. That's what I'm going to do. But I would never addict somebody else to it. I smoked cigarettes for 40 years of my life. I still want to do it. I come up with this electric supplement, but it's not quite the same thing. But whatever. But I would never addict somebody to fucking nicotine. You really, this isn't that fucking complicated. You're just playing a game with a really sensitive subject because you're a fucking weasel.
Like antinatalism, having a child because of necessary harm, and the fact that the asymmetry describes is used to bolster that. So you don't cause unnecessary harm, right? And so you basically, and you can arrive at the other conclusion. Sorry, we're rambling. You can arrive at the other conclusion that.
Look, I could describe Gandhi's life as crap. Even Gandhi could describe it as crap. But the point is that he had influence, so his life wasn't crap. His personal experience of life might have been crap, okay? But his significance and role play in being part of a good script, a destiny, can't be denied. So again, that's part of this argument. You can't do anything if you are dead. And again, if you make being dead easier, okay, where we didn't ask to be in the game, we shouldn't have to pay to get out of the game. And essentially, you're like locking people. You're like the assholes who enslave people in Brunei or some other kind of bullshit place, and they go there to work, and then they create the debt, and then they can't get out of the country. They're locked in because they owe money, and so now they're slaves. And you're basically do the same thing. You sit there and put people into the game, and then and give them and unknowingly with a nature and a physical body and relationships to other people that they're going to get involved in, and then tell them that they can't commentate on the stupidity of the game unless they're willing to kill themselves. I mean, you can't see how unfair that is, how ludicrous that is, how stupid that is. I mean, I can be a starving man, and I can still say, you give me a piece of pie, I can still say it's a shitty piece of pie, and you really shouldn't feed this crap to anybody but starving people. I mean, you could do that, right? Just because you're starving doesn't mean you can't say it's shitty food.
Living your life is also a message of harm. But if you just go, well, this is under this title of antinatalism, we'll separate that. And we don't have to accept this. But if you start with the same logic, the principle must be applied universally. If it may be wrong to have a child or unethical, but you may arrive at finding out many other things are also unethical based on it. And I think choosing to end your life is one of those.
Well, whatever. That's just the silliest thing. So, yeah, you think it's unethical by what? Some God's notion? Your own dopey, idiotic... I don't even know how you could describe it as unethical. I mean, it's just so stupid. To reject mommy's judgment is a crime? Oh, mommy thought it was a good idea, so therefore I have to? I mean, what's your standard here? Well, there is no standard. That's right. You're just one of these drones of the DNA, part of the Borg of conventional, narrow-minded, wishy-washy, fable-driven psychology.
So there are objections to this. People will say, well, not really, because we already have interests, whereas a child doesn't. We have values and obligations and so forth.
Well, you're not even going to waste time with this, are you? You do understand that there's a big difference between a fetus and an adult, and there's a big difference between a baby and an adult in terms of their psychology. It's, incredibly significant difference. There's much more difference than there is between me and a pig, okay, than there is between me and the fetus I was, or even the 2-year-old. There's more difference between me now and me when I was 2 years old than there is between me now and a pig right now being tortured by some fucker like you, so he can have a grease burger for dinner.
Right, then one has no interests. Right, but which one of your interests justifies the harm you cause by continuing to live?
Well, again, it's not written that I'm causing harm. You're just not getting it. The commentary is on the game itself. All right? I could be a very good person. I could be a very productive person, and in fact create no harm and create a lot of unharm. So that's not a given. It is a statement in the first place. It's the game itself that's broken. You're just, again, not getting it. It's not the fault of the pieces. It's the game that's stupid. It's not the knight and the bishops and the pawns that are guilty of something. The game is guilty. All right, till later.